Good morning, good
Recording in
afternoon, and
progress.
good evening for everyone based upon the parts of the world from which you are joining this program. We are looking at this life force for many weeks in continuum, and Akash, Panchabhutas, Saptatadus, we are all very confident in that. Now, in this session, Dr. M.V.R. Ayya has given me this opportunity to talk on science behind the Kayakalpam and how it is related to our Maharishi's life force principles. End of the day, the discussions about life force as such is more of like a theoretical, while only if we know the link between the life force and the Kayakalpa, we can say that we are good in the applied science like applied physics or applied chemistry, etc. I'm sure everybody in this group is quite well versed in Kayakalpa or quite pro and doing it as diligently as possible. With the help of Varunaya, now he's trying to regularize the group almost like a school children to make sure that we are much more meticulous in the periodicity and the correctness of frequency of practice, etc. I really appreciate the efforts. It's nice always to have somebody to pat from our back to make sure that we are leading the course of life in a very appropriate manner. I had a phone discussion with Dr. M.V.R. Ayya regarding this talk. Now, nobody can match Dr. M.V.R. Ayya to talk about life force. So I literally told him that when we are discussing the life force part of the discussion, I really want him to jump in so that we are in the correct phase and correct discussion wavelength. I've taken some of the slides which previously used by Dr. M.V.R. Ayya in the same group presentations, and I hear slides were prepared by Vijayalakshmi Amma, and thank you Amma for that. So in this presentation, primarily we are going to look into Maharishi's principle. I'm a very odious follower of various Vedanta books, so obviously there will be a touch of Vedanta, Advaitam and those things. And obviously I'm a doctor, so I can bring a lot of inputs from the medical part of it. I want to keep this discussion quite simple so that it's acceptable to anyone, even for non-medical person. But if somebody has any curious question on a specific thing like how this works, what is the direct link between the medicine or medical reason behind it, I'm quite happy to take it in depth. But overall, the presentation will clearly address how Kayakalpa works and how it is linked to life force. So from tomorrow onwards, when you are doing Kayakalpa, you can easily relate Dr. M.V.I. explanations of life force and how we are actually dealing it practically in our body during the Kayakalpa 3 times a day or before food, etc. So from the classroom of just discussions, now we are taking into a practical aspect of the life force today. So our approach is, I will start with a touch of Brahmanyanam. Again, I think in this group, everybody is quite aware of Brahmanyanam and everybody is quite well versed in it. Why Brahmanyanam is very important is it is the Brahmanyanam, which is the ultimate knowledge. That's what it means. Brahman is something like ultimate and Jnanam is the knowledge. By understanding the Brahmanyanam, we will understand the further what is the basis to the life force, and it will further strengthen your belief in Kayakalpa also. We will touch on what is Kayakalpa, what is the science behind it. I will use Dr. M.V.R. Ayya's slides to explain Maharishi's life force. Application of both principles in the day-to-day life, not just theoretical discussions, and will touch upon the benefits. No way in this presentation we are going to explain how Kayakalpa is done because as per the Maharishi's lineage, we always teach Kayakalpa in a face-to-face session. It has to be done very appropriately and it is not something we can do over the Zoom. So if there is anything like a practical question of performing Kayakalpa or some correction or something like that, you will be keeping in touch with your local Temple of Consciousness centers. But if there is a theoretical question, we can easily answer it. I can say to certain extent that because of the extensive relation what I have with M.V.R. Ayya regarding the life force related readings, and also we spent almost similarly hours and hours of discussion on Kayakalpa. We have released a book on Kayakalpa. We have done a 2 day seminar on the science and spirituality, which entirely revolves around Kayakalpa. And I've got a very blessed opportunity to get associated with it very closely. And because of Dr. M.V.R. Ayya and Dr. Sudhindra Devi, I got the opportunity to conduct the whole 2 day program as a master of ceremony. Initially, it was a very daunting task because I flew all the way from UK and I need to settle with the Coimbatore and India's weather, etc. But believe me, since I was given MOC, I had the absolute knowledge of what happened on those 2 days. I need to keep an eye on every sentence uttered so that I can link that with the next sentence, and there were lots of counter actioning presentations, like debate like presentations, like paired presentations. And I really wish that whole 2 days presentation is available like a full cinema, and the book is also available quite soon. Hopefully it will happen. So we are going to link the Vedanthriyam Kayakalpa with its scientific benefits and whatever my understanding is. As you can see from this Venn diagram, my understanding is only a small part of it. But being a doctor and also a very audacious Vedantari's principal follower, I spent a lot of hours in understanding the actual science behind it, and my medical knowledge was very, very handy to me. And truthfully speaking, I got associated with Maharishi only during my after urology training. So I did my whole MBBS and surgical training and urology training without knowing anything much about Kayakalpa. But when I got associated from around 2004, now it's reaching 20 years now, I can relate everything with my medical books. And it really made me so curious to take my medical books and read them again to see that, whoa, this is what we are talking or teaching in allopathy medicine, and this is what our Vedic sciences and Maharishi's principles are aligning with. I'm quite happy for anyone to stop me in between if there is a very burning question, because sometimes if we answer it then and then, because every slide is in continuum linked to each other, it's very unfair for somebody to have a doubt on, say, 5th slide, and but we are heading towards 40th slide, etc. Now, a very short note on Brahmanyanam. Again, Brahmanyanam in Maharishi's words or in Sky Yoga teaching, we are all quite aware of. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to focus only on the Brahmanyanam from the science point of it, from the physics point of it. If somebody has to explain our Maharishi's concepts of Brahmanyanam, we need to explain by using the physics law by name Hubble limiter law. Hubble, we are all much more familiar because we know about the Hubble telescope, and now we have much more advanced James Webb telescope, and Hubble telescope really did a very big job in understanding what is happening in the Milky Way, etc., etc. So the observations by both these people, Hubble and Limiter, they were all in different countries like Belgium, etc. They simultaneously found that when the galaxies were farther away, they are moving away from Earth at much more speed. So if there is a galaxy which is closer to our Milky Way, it's moving at x speed, means a galaxy which is too far is moving at 2x speed, 5x speed, etc. I'm just telling you for the sake of comparison. So extrapolating this cosmic expansion in a backward direction, they were able to understand that at one point, if we calculate the speed, they all should be arising from a single point. That's what we call it as singularity. And during meditation, this is what known as Shivakalam. So you can see that even though the language may be entirely different, it is the same meaning, it is the same kind of concepts happening there. I was in Indonesia for a meeting. During that meeting, it's a pure medical conference, nothing to do with yoga. In the end, they sung kind of a prayer song, and it was quite gibberish for me because it's an Indonesian language. But somehow it is very curious, and then the syllables and the vocabulary is a little bit more familiar to me. I I was quite surprised. How come I will know this Indonesian language, prayer song, etc.? So I started hearing it with much more curiosity. Believe me, it is nothing but Gayatri Mantram. The exact Gayatri Mantram, in fact, the exact word, only the tone and slang is different. And when I discuss with my Indonesian colleagues, they are all saying like, "Oh, it's one of our ethnic verses, etc., etc." And everything is linked together. Of course, Indonesia has got very strong presence of Hinduism, Rama, Krishna, etc. But the Gayatri Mantram, exactly our mantram, is sung as a prayer song in Indonesia for not just centuries, for millennia, without any knowledge. The link may have happened something like 1500 years before, or even before Christ. And now detailed measurements of this force and movement of the galaxies, when they calculate, they found approximately 13.8 billion years ago this whole thing should be in a singularity phase. And from the singularity, if everything has started, that led to the definition of Big Bang, etc. This also gives us an idea about this singularity in universal magnetism. During the life force related discussions, Dr. Amir usually mentions about the presence of absolute phase and how that Sundaritum force results in formation of the divine particles, etc. And he clearly explains it in a so meticulous manner. So this is the same principle happened in the form of a Big Bang. So this is the like a picture of the Big Bang, where if you say this is the point of the Big Bang, whatever happened before Big Bang is singularity, just a single point, no movement, nothing. So this black arrow, we can label it as something like Shivakalam. While at the same time, something of this Big Bang happening, the white spot, can be labeled as a Saksikalam, where the actions start happening. And once the action starts happening, we can see the inflation and there is dark ages, and then slowly now 13.77 billion years, now we have our Milky Way, Andromeda galaxies are happening here. So when everything is starting from one place, this is a kind of a physics explanation of our Maharishi's Brahmanyanam. Why it's important to understand this is, if we understand this, if we understand that the whole universe has got like a single basis, which is again a kind of consciousness, if you feel it in a very Vedic sense, it is a kind of magnetism, if you want to make it more of a physics sense, etc. We can easily understand how Maharishi's Varthu works, how Maharishi's principles works, how Maharishi's Aindil Alavumurai works. Everything can be explained by Brahmanyanam. That's why I am always very much intrigued with this Brahmanyanam of Maharishi, which is very, very unique to our Sky Yoga practices. Even Kayakalpa, in a slightly different manner, maybe there are some followers or institutes may be using it. But the concept of Brahmanyanam with the exact term which explains that Brahmanyanam is very, very unique to our Sky Yoga group. Now, from the Brahmanyanam, now taking back to our body and slowly traveling towards Kayakalpa, we know that we got three bodies. Now again, we are all maybe quite expert in it: physical body, subtle body, and causal body. Physical body is the gross body, which we all see, feel, use for day-to-day life. Subtle body is the one consists predominantly of feelings. Say for example, somebody may be looking okay, doing the job normally, but inside they may feel a bit low because of maybe some economical problem or family discussion or family problem, something like that. That is what is known as subtle body. And causal body is the one which is got that universal consciousness or pure consciousness, which is what is got that deep-seated samadhi state when you are having a very successful meditation, which happens, or that feeling of the causal body happens only after years and years of practice. For someone who has difficulty in understanding the subtle body, I can use the medical situation by name phantom limb. It was very nicely demonstrated in one of the Tamil film. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of the film, But when I see this picture, possibly somebody may explain or relate if you have remembered the film. As you see, the hero in the Tamil film got one leg amputated, and he's using this kind of a prosthetic leg. What happens in this film is at times he gets severe pain in the amputated leg, and he really struggles. In medically we call it as a phantom pain. I will explain it in detail. When he struggles with the phantom pain, nothing will work. Like medications or painkillers or paracetamol, nothing will work. In this film, it's not even explained that clearly in the medical books. The hero's wife, heroine obviously, helps him by showing a mirror, and this mirror actually kept in the area of the amputated limb. You can see that the right leg is amputated, and the leg is now having a reflection of his actual healthy opposite left leg. You can see that. So what is seen in the place of the right leg is nothing but the reflection of the left leg. I hope it's clear. And then the pain got subsided gradually. This was shown in this film at least maybe 2 times, but I'm pretty sure the director may not know how this works, etc. The director may have read somewhere that if the mirror is used, the pain will decrease. I think so, because it's not something very well discussed even in the medical books, as I say. In other way, this is a beautiful way of explaining the presence of causal body. If somebody says, I understand the physical body because you can feel, see, touch, etc. I understand that pure consciousness by using a Turiya meditation. I'm focusing on it. Just now also Tarunaya has nicely led a Turiya meditation. So I understand that causal body or universal magnetism or pure consciousness. But what is this subtle body? If I have some low mood feeling, it's because of my brain, some sensations from the brain. So why we are taking it separately? So in this, if somebody interested what happened actually in the film, what is happening is, even though the hero has got his right leg amputated, it is only the physical body got amputated, and the whole body as seen here, the subtle body is of exactly the same shape, size, everything like the gross body. In fact, regarding the subtle body, somebody will relate it to the aura, etc. So what is happening is, when that amputation happened on the right leg, only that physical body is cut off, but the subtle body, the leg, the ankle joint, the feet, everything is still there working, maybe with some weakness. And when that subtle body gets that pain, the hero will feel the pain in the area where the right leg is supposed to be. And you can explain that medically it's impossible to treat. If you have a proper leg with a nerve supply, etc., you can treat it. You can give some injection, you can give a tablet. If you take a tablet, it will dissolve in the blood, and the blood will take it to the area of pain. The pain is dissolved. So if somebody's got a pain in an area which is not even in the body, in the limb absent area, medically that is known as phantom pain. And instead of pain, if that person actually just feels the leg, as if the leg is still there, as if the fingers are still there, it is known as phantom limb. So phantom limb, phantom pain are well explained in medical science, and thousands of publications are there, thousands of reasoning behind that, everything is there. And how this mirror works is, when the heroine shows a mirror in the area of the absent of the right leg, it just reflects the hero's same healthy opposite leg in the place of the right leg. And the beauty of the mirror is, the symmetry, everything is maintained as it is, and even the thumbs are in the inner side, the little toe is in the outer side, everything is so nicely matched to his absent limb. Now the subtle body is getting fooled by the reflection from the opposite leg. So the hero will try to relate that whether that mirror image is the actual limb which is supposed to be. And since the mirror image limb, which is the normal left leg, is normal, slowly the pain get subsided. It's a very, very beautiful concept if you are able to dwell in it for a few minutes on that. So a subtle body where even spiritually people will say nothing can be done. If at all, if you want to improve your aura, do meditation, be good to others, and have a sattvic food, etc., etc., they will say. And medically, there is no concept of subtle body. They have given the name of phantom. Phantom means something like a false, etc. You know that. And now, how beautifully it links and explains the presence of the subtle body, and how beautifully the subtle body can be tricked by the reflection from the opposite limb. And once the reflection happens, since the opposite limb is normal, the subtle body will get a kind of a solace, thinking that okay, the limb is normal, everything is normal. See the link of our brain power in creating a problem which is not there, and also resolving a problem which is not at all resolved. Only if something is resolved we can give any weightage to that problem resolving, isn't it? So a problem is created by the brain, and the same problem is also resolved by tricking the brain using this mirror. And such a powerful the brain is. So that's why in the previous session I'm always fortunate I was able to log in a little bit early, so I always quite interested to hear from Tarun's messages. Tarun's message of remove guilt, you've done a mistake, is a very, very, very powerful message. What is the point in having a guilt? If somebody has got a guilt and they're able to use the guilt to build them, to make them stronger, to make them more punctual, that's good. If the guilt makes you to feel low, feel bad, it will only be very counterproductive, and it will only avoid you from doing the practices further, and so it's no way it's useful. In fact, I will try to quickly show one of the very, very interesting chart I come across. It's slightly away we are going, but it's known as map of consciousness. It's a very nicely developed by a Western person, David Hawkins. And you can see that level of consciousness is from just survival, reason and integrity, which a wise person may be, and spiritual area is where we are trying for. And if you have a higher level of consciousness, you can see the energetic log is reaching up to 1000. While if you are just in the survival, that too, the guilt and shame feeling are the one which give the lowest energy log. And of course, there are various emotional state, view of life, God view process, a lot of things in this. I'm quite happy to share this to Vijayalakshmi Amma so that she can share it in the group. This simple table will tell us exactly what is what from spiritual life to a normal life. Now, we are now quite confident on what is the subtle body, and why I've spent this extra minutes in explaining everyone about the subtle body is the whole Kayakalpa magic happens only in subtle body. Even though we are using our physical body for the Ashwini Mudra and Ojas, etc., that feeling of the biomagnetism getting up from the Ashwini Mudra or the Muladhara to higher chakras and all happening only in the causal body. Only if a person is so confident of presence of causal body and able to feel the causal body and able to feel that they will get the best outcome of Kayakalpa. That's why even though till now I've not even started about the Kayakalpa, these are like a foundational building blocks. We should be confident on Brahmanyanam, we should be confident on universal magnetism and universal consciousness, we should be confident on subtle body. Now coming to the main topic of biomagnetism of life force. We know that this is the basis of everything, because we know that the whole universe, whatever we know as of now, started from a single point, Big Bang, singularity. So that is the basis of everything, whether it's inanimate or animate. We can explain this like the Big Bang has happened, and then at one point everything will going to dissipate, and then the whole thing will start again. There is a scientific explanation also for this. There is also, of course, good amount of Vedic sciences also says about this four yugas and rotation of yugas, etc., etc. They say that all yuga is just Brahma's one day life cycle, etc. We don't want to go into too much of a theistic explanation because we can explain our Maharishi's principles with a good amount of medical explanation itself. And it's a very simple explanation. For example, if I feel tired end of the day, if I want to sleep, if I feel sleepy, that means my battery is low, my magnetism is low. If the magnetism is present in the battery, it is kind of electromagnetism. If it's present in the human body, it is just the biomagnetism, indirectly life force. It is responsible for the integrity of the body. Dr. M.V.R. Raya very nicely explains how that rotation of the life force is important in integrity of the body, and when that rotation and integrity is not maintained, the different particles escapes and body becomes weak, or even that could be the reason for the ultimate death also. I'm going to use those slides in the later part. It is important for homeostasis like blood pressure management, heart rate management, respiration management, etc. It prevents entropy. The word prevent is very important here. Nobody can avoid entropy. Entropy is planned disorderness which will happen again in both animate and inanimate bodies. If you leave a house unattended, come back in 10 years time, you will see that the walls have become weaker, the plants are growing inside the house, and the whole thing will get disarray. If the same house is properly occupied by somebody, say for example if it is in the western countries, like properly heated, or if it's in like our Indian subcontinent, if it's properly ventilated, cleaned, and somebody is moving in and out and somebody is living in this, that gives a different texture to the house. The house will become home, as we say, and the house will be stronger, not only just 10 years, even for 50 years, even for 60 years. But if somebody is not living, even for example, if you close your house and go for a holiday and then come back in 10 days time, you feel a bit of an emptiness in the house, a kind of a dull feel, a kind of the best Tamil word is known as verumai, which is very difficult to translate. I will say emptiness in English. And then once you start moving in, put the lights on, use the water, etc., once everything start flowing, see how much a humane biomagnetism makes an inanimate house into a home. And once a human being is living and everything is taken care, the other creatures won't come, because every area has got a kind of a finite life force and energy happening, and when that is consumed by the human being, the plants or microbes or rodents or something won't come in. But when the human occupation is not there, first of all the cleanness is not there, and all other inmates will start growing inside this, the house will go into an entropy. The entropy happens not only at the level of the small house, it happens at the level of the continent, level of the earth, level of the galaxies. That's why the galaxies are flying apart. That's what the Hubble limiter law says. While this whole entropy business can be controlled, tightened, taken into a kind of good circulation, healthy circulation by Kayakalpa. That's the exact mechanism what M.V.R. Raya also explained by using the life force diagrams of keeping the integrity, preventing the divine dust particles from unnecessary escape. Ultimately things will escape, but as long as it is supposed to happen, we should keep it strengthful and also without any disease. That's why the word prevents entropy is important. We are not trying to avoid entropy, which is impossible. And most of you are quite aware of these 7 chakras. Again, I'm not going to discuss this because we have discussed in this discussion in this board itself plenty of times. And there are lots of innumerable channels. Almost main channels are 108 nadis and main chakras are 7 chakras. Again, even though this picture is quite a modern picture, it's a very, very ancient concept. When we prepared our Kayakalpa book, we have referred so extensively into lots of books to read about these concepts of what exactly the Siddhar written about the nadis, etc. And Dr. Sundar Devi is always fond of some very nice quotes from them. And so these pictures were aged hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they have conceptualized these nadis in a quite a different way. And from this modern medical system, it's quite intriguing to see that it's like, how can I say, I was given a task to find a shortest path to Mount Everest, for example. But I was given all the modern gadgets like drone camera, helicopter, everything is there. So I can easily fly over, find a good path, safe path, shortest path, using everything. That's what happening with the medical science. We got like CT scan, MRI, everything. But if another person is just given a pair of slippers or something to cover his body and then ask him to walk and find the best path to Mount Everest, how difficult it is, and in fact how impossible to find the correct path. But the Siddharthas have almost done it. So they are able to label the organs, they were able to label the connections and everything, and the amount of work what they have done is quite gobsmacking when we look from now. They were able to discuss every organ in relation to kind of a named god also. So if you are a worshipper of multiple gods, ultimately multiple organs will be taken care, etc. Now at this point, normally if we are doing this session, I've done this session plenty of times in earlier also. Of course not at this level. I will be able to tune my level of talk based upon the audience. So if there is a group of farmers from Bangalore, that's what exactly happened, from Karnataka, they came for the session. I'm trying to talk to them in a very very basic way, but here, since we are discussing things at a much different level, I'm trying to elevate my speak to this august audience. At this point, usually we will give them a break and teach them the Kayakalpa, so that they will know what is Kayakalpa and what is the procedure, etc., which you know. So just remember that at this point you will be revising your Kayakalpa. And the Kayakalpa main purpose is to prevent aging and diseases and have a healthy life. It has a direct influence on chakras, which we know. It has indirect effects of karma also. Previously I did a session on karmas and how Kayakalpa works, etc., for the same group, and I was very happy that at the time also Imveraya was able to pitch in and give some very good relation between the life forces and karma. So this time also, after my speech, Dr. Imveraya will jump in to link the Kayakalpa and life force in a much more strengthful manner. And then Kayakalpa has some direct relation with what is known as Karpam. And somebody may heard about the karpam, which is a kind of a mixture which is made up of maybe something like a small amount of mercury, but maybe like gold, rare minerals, some plants, etc. And if you take it at this particular frequency with this particular other food habits and physical activities and having appropriate sleep, etc., the body will become strong, and in fact you will be glowing. That's what the principle behind this Tangabaspam, etc. Nowadays, this true knowledge of Karpam is slowly dwindling down. And I had lots of discussions with Dr. M.V. Raya regarding that, and people are still doing here and there, but it's very difficult to approve their authenticity. And second thing is very difficult to reach them and follow them and then keep an eye on them, and then it may work when you have belief, but if you don't have belief, it may not work. So we can't blame the system, we need to blame our own belief, etc. So there's a lot of problems happening with that, and the ingredients are not that easy to get because we have deforestation, etc. And if you have to take karpam and keep your body like Markandeyan, you need to follow strict lifestyles, which nowadays people are not at all interested. What is the point in following all your lifestyles and having a 120 years life? And give me something so that I can live as long as possible, but don't talk to me about this lifestyle that there is no purpose of life. That's exact discussion what people are having. So I am a urologist. I see day in and day out people come with urine problems, say for example getting up in the night in passing urine or difficulty in passing urine. Not just the elderly men and women, or even nowadays in 30s and 40s men and women are coming with the problems. So when I discuss with them the simple things like smoking, alcohol, coffee and tea intake, etc., they are not much interested in leaving any of the bad habits because they're all not considered as bad habits anymore. Of course, smoking is still fortunately considered as a bad habit, but drinking alcohol and coffee and tea have become an absolute norm. One of my distant cousins said that she is giving her 10-year-old or 12-year-old coffee without sugar. And she's proudly saying that my son will never take sugar and is able to have coffee without sugar. And I was quite surprised why a 12-year-old need coffee first of all, isn't it? So people's concept of acceptance of caffeine and alcohol has become so normal, and it's a shame to see it happening in the family table, not necessarily reserved only for some friends meeting, etc. And also the side effects of karpam, it's not safe, and we have discussed this with our friends also. It's very difficult to follow and it's not safe. So the only solution for you to maintain your body like Markandeyan with a good young youthfulness and vigorness as long as possible, like Siddhar said, up to 120 years, is by Kayakalpa, by which you are maintaining the life force, by which you are keeping the integrity of the biomagnetism. At this point, I wish to bring in a little bit discussion on vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism, because I have got my own idea about the concepts of it. We all agree what is vegetarianism, what is non-vegetarianism. Non-vegetarianism means having some animal food, like for example chicken, mutton, whatever is that. Vegetarianism is your food will be only plant-based, and usually, especially countries like India, vegetarianism, people will accept milk. But now we have the concepts of vegan, so many things where we think that even the milk is coming from a cow, and so it's not a vegetarian, so that is removed from the vegetarian. And to prevent confusion, there is a subset created by name vegan. I'm not getting into that complexity. Now, what is the concept behind a kind of approval of vegetarianism, a kind of a aversion towards non-vegetarianism? So few of you may be good non-vegetarian eaters, that's different, but there is a general concept, at least in the spiritual world, that non-vegetarian is bad, we should not eat. What may be the concepts? Number one, it may be like prevention of animal cruelty. Number two, somebody may be quite bright enough to understand that the non-vegetarian food really gives a kind of that rajas, tamas and the sattvic. Out of the three qualities, it increases the tamasic quality, makes you feel lazy and etc, etc. And people say and can say that if somebody is eating like a pork and all those things, you will get a kind of a bad microbiome from it or bad karma from it. You can explain it both medically, non-medically, spiritually, etc, etc. So now, let me take you all into a different question. Who said plucking a leaf from a plant and cooking it, like a spinach, for example, taking a banana from a banana tree and eating it, or taking any fruit for that instance, or taking that rice or corn from our own field and taking it and eating it, who gave us the right? If killing a chicken or a goat or whatever the animal is a wrong thing, how come plucking a leaf and taking a seed or something is a correct one? In which way? Are we saying that all these plants have no life, no feeling, etc.? If a mango tree is giving mambaram, mango fruit, the only purpose is because of that fruitiness, the squirrels or birds will come and consume, open up the seed will go and germinate. So it's a part of its own germination process. They don't want, none of the tree, if they have a mouth, will say that you can take my seed and eat and put the seed into a bin. Then the whole germination process is gone. And this cultivation of rice or wheat or corn or something like that is almost like your agriculture or grooming the goat and whatever the chicken for slaughterhouse. So no way we are doing any different in the first principle, that vegetarianism means plant food because we love animals. It is a kind of less harmful to animals. We are giving equal arm to plants in a very, very root cause manner. So what is the true vegetarianism? The true vegetarianism is Kayakalpa, pranayama, and having some direct sun exposure. Believe me, by pranayama or Nadi Sutti, what our Maharishi has given us, we are getting so much of energy. Our respiratory system is able to take good amount of oxygen and release the carbon dioxide, and we are increasing its vitality to the maximum, to the level that you will be having less appetite, less intake of food, better sleep, and good energy level, etc. While these are the things a food is supposed to give: decreasing the appetite, good energy, etc. etc. The same thing the Nadi Sutti is going to give us. Similarly, by doing Kayakalpa, we are improving or vitalizing our magnetism so naturally. It is the actual definition of vegetarianism. And similarly, exposure to sun, or if you believe in Surya Namaskar and doing something in front of the sun, these are all the ways by which we are getting a natural energy, just like a plant. So if somebody is able to odiously practice the Nadi Sutti, sun exposure, and whatever the yogic postures our Maharishi has told us in the form of exercises, and especially the Kayakalpa, your body is able to maintain the metabolism to utmost level, not entirely depend on the food what you take. This is the best sattvic food, and this is the only best definition of vegetarianism. Even taking a plant food, we are taking some life out of it. And the beauty of it is, you can't just like that store that excess of biomagnetism by the Kayakalpa, etc., in a wrong manner, like for example of excess of fat deposits, etc. You will store it in a kind of how a battery, if you're charging it, even if it's 100% charge, it will look the same. Even if it's 0% charge, it will look the same. That's why that charging is happening not like battery. I'm telling in our body, the Kayakalpa related charging happening in a subtle body. So you won't be seeing a kind of a swollen flat resources like how it may appear when you are overeating, etc. So I'm just bringing the Tesla car as an example because it's a kind of a pure energy. It has no exhaust, it has no emission unnecessarily, etc. Okay, just for the sake of correlation or analogy. So the Kayakalpa works by elevating and strengthening our body's biomagnetism and life force from lower chakras to higher chakras, because during the practice itself we are able to focus on the Mooladhara during the Ashwini Mudra, and we're able to feel the energy going up. When I was speaking to MVRIR 2 days back, he has so nicely explained the chakras, including its relation to the gods, which is not exactly the concept of Maharishi, but how everything is so much interrelated and intermingled. I was so gobsmacked because I'm not a very ritualistic person, and I'm not a theistic person. I'm a very, very strict Maharishi's follower, and I feel I'm 100% confident that that's more than enough to have a very, very successful, full, complete life. I can vouch for it anytime. So when you are doing this Ashwini Mudra, which medically we can equate to something like Kegel's exercise, we are able to bring our focus to the Mooladhara. Otherwise, it's very difficult to even think about Mooladhara. And also I will show some slides why this Ashwini Mudra works, how it works. And then we can use inspiration as one of the tool to feel that increase of the biomagnetism from lower chakras to higher chakras, even though it was not clearly directly explained by using the breath in Maharishi's concept. So I'm not going to discuss that in detail. Focusing and assuming the upward movement of the biomagnetism or the life force is the most essential thing. That's why I said knowing, having the confidence of subtle body is very important. Say for example, if you are walking, if you just hit your feet against the wall or the door, and it's a bit ouch and it's a uncomfortable feeling, if you look into your leg, nothing happened. Your physical body is as such. So at that instance, you should get a kind of a inner feeling that, oh, my physical body is fine, oh, my subtle body got bit hurt, etc. So you should be able to feel the subtle body in your day-to-day activities so comfortably, and that will give you so much of confidence in doing the Kayakalpa. In fact, Maharishi's quite advanced practices like Sukuma Payanam and all is exactly or entirely depend upon the subtle body. Unfortunately, I think we don't have enough gurus to teach us those things in a very safe manner. And then for prevention of the side effects due to Kayakalpa, like for example, if somebody is very confidently, overzealously doing it and making the biomagnetisms to get more concentrated in higher chakras, that creating like a kind of a headache or vertigo or etc. Maharishi has given both clearance meditation and also Shanti Davam, which we do every Friday to create the equilibrium. Again, I can quote Tarun's today's class that he has clearly mentioned it's like a medication. If you are supposed to take twice daily, if you missed on a day, next day you should continue only twice daily. You can't take 4 times a day. And he has clearly said, don't kill yourself by doing more meditation. The word don't kill yourself by doing more meditation may sound quite different, but by trying to compensate whatever we missed, we are trying to, what we say, like a catch our tail, which will never going to happen, and again it will lead to the same guilt or shame feeling. Instead of that, what is gone, and focus on today, focus on how to plan today and lead in a very prospective manner and don't consider retrospective manner. That's a very nice discussion I'm fortunate to hear before joining this class. And again, you all know about this Kesari Mudra. Again, the Kesari Mudra part alone is should be very clearly understood. People have done this Kesari Mudra to the level of even taking the tongue into the back of the soft palate and touching the pineal gland area, etc. How much it is useful, again, that's an entirely different discussion. I don't want to discuss any of the procedural things in an online platform, which is not the correct way of teaching. And Ojas breath, we all know. Regarding the Ojas breath, it should have that Venturi effect. That's why we need to purse the lips, and the Ojas should happen between the gaps in the teeth. That's more than enough. And it can be a bit stronger for a man, and for a woman it should be a bit milder because of the pelvic floor, and we don't want the pelvic floor to get weakened, and we don't want the age related problems like pelvic floor prolapse and those things to happen. Again, that's why when we are discussing Kayakalpa, I'll be very cautious. Please don't take any of today's discussion into your procedural thing. You should take today's session as a practical thing to understand, so that you can do this with a confidence that it is not just Maharishi's teaching alone. There is a huge amount of science behind it. That's the main reason of this whole Life Force group. Apart from just this odious Kayakalpa practice, I strongly believe in 2 more things, which I will explain. It has now direct relation, but it has got lots of indirect relation in a successful Kayakalpa, successful biomagnetism and life energy management. Fasting, appropriate calorie intake, and maintaining a kind of fast and feast cycles. Maybe at one point, if time permits, I can discuss on just the calorie intake alone, how we can make our physical body so good so that your subtle body will cooperate on whatever you are planning to do. So for example, I will label it as a Tarun's challenge for the week. So Tarun's challenge for the week, people are struggling to do, not because of the physical body alone, it's just the laziness from the subtle body which is not cooperating to push the physical body to do whatever that, whether it's a Kayakalpa on the first week what we discussed, and then later now meditation, etc. So the calorie intake will really make these 2 as your armamentarium, and you will feel so strong in getting them back in your control. Again, the other thing is ejaculation restriction. It applies, simple words, sexual activity or ejaculation. Okay, and it applies both to men and women. There is a small difference in men and women. Men may lose lot of vitality during the sexual intercourse because they are the givers, while women are the receivers. In simple words, Maharishi used to say have a sexual intercourse frequency in the region of maximum once in every 2 weeks or twice in a month. But Maharishi is a people's Guruji, is the only spiritual person who tailored everything for a common man, for a postman, for a policeman, for a constable, for an officer, for a government person. Anybody can do. That's why he is trying to tailor whatever the minimalist possible, at the same time definitely should be done. There is a lot of proofs to say that the sex need is only for the purpose of your producing child. For example, if a husband and wife got married and got 2 children, maybe 1 year after marriage, 3 years after marriage, then there is no need for sex at all. The only reason a plant produces seed is to increase its progeny, to make the plants to have more plants. Animals do have sex, but they have sex only for the reason of producing more children. Animals may have multiple sex throughout the lifetime, but again everything is due to the reason of producing the children. Naturally, the world as it forms, it has given a lot of importance to this sexual activity because it wants to keep this progeny of animals and human beings and plants to go on and on and on. We can explain it in the form of karma cycle and various methods. So the plants produce those nice anther and pollination with the help of the honey, very sweet manner, in a nice bright colored flowers, etc. Again, once it gone to the seed stage, it is covered by a fruity covering, so that again it becomes a bit of an interesting thing for honeybee in the stage of the flower, or something like a squirrel in the stage of a fruit, to take it forward, have an interest to take it. Those kind of things are always linked to a kind of procreation. Animals do procreate, but they don't do for fun. People who have animals, as for example, like domesticated dogs or cats, sometimes we have to take them to the veterinary doctor for the reason for procurement, etc. But we never think about a kind of a joyful sex for them. Unfortunately, human beings, again because of the evolution, they started thinking the joy part of the sex in a very wrong manner and separated it entirely from the actual reason of progeny or procurement part of it. Because of that, now the joy part of it is given so much of importance, and people think that life, marriage, having sex throughout the life till the woman reaches menopause, whatever the man reaches is andropause, we can say, and then the children are born at some appropriate phase. So the child has become an entirely different channel, and once they complete the family, maybe 1 child or 2 child or even 4 child or 5 child, they follow appropriate contraceptive methods and continue the sexual intercourse. From my understanding, after dwelling on these topics for not years, for decades now, I can confidently say there is no point in having ejaculation unless for purpose of having a child. But if I speak this in any forum, I will be blasted, I know. But this is the fact. At least people should know what is fact, and then they can do whatever best they can. And it's a very simple thing. By having unnecessary ejaculation, even a woman will have ejaculation during the sex, we are losing so much of our potential energy, biomagnetism, life force, etc. It slows down the lower chakras. It focuses or takes our mind so much into the lower chakras, and you don't get enough energy in the upper chakras. You can reflect it in your day-to-day life also, whether it's man or for a woman. Once you start having that interest to have sex, say for example you are in the office and something it crosses your mind just like that, till you finish it, that day will be entirely different. You may not be able to do any high level job, you will be thinking something quite different, and the day will be quite different. And that's even for the woman or man. I can say I have a lot of practice. I'm an andrologist also, so I can say with my practice with thousands and thousands of patients. And then once it's done, it releases so much of energy, it releases so much of sympathetic output, increased heart rate, increased respiratory rate, it makes you tired, and then good sleep, etc. And next day you will start everything normally, and we think it's normal. It's not normal. It's not something going to help with your spiritual practice or even in the normal healthy life. And for example, any of you who are quite confident in Kayakalpa, able to feel that Ashwini Mudra, able to feel the biomagnetism going up, just try one Kayakalpa after the sexual intercourse, maybe 10-15 minutes later. You will feel an emptiness. You will feel that nothing is happening. And that is biomagnetism. You will be able to feel the presence and absence with absolute confidence. That is the main crux of biomagnetism. That is the main crux of vital forces. That is the main crux of life energy we are discussing for weeks and weeks and weeks here. Once we understand it, believe me, we will not misuse it. We will use it very cautiously. We will use it appropriately. Of course, it requires good understanding with a partner, and this has to be started at quite early stage. There is no point in somebody at quite later stage understanding this, while at that point they may not be having enough reserve. End of the day, everything is reserve. If you look into the new movies like for example Kalki, etc., whatever points you got, that's what given in movie Kalki, isn't it? Hopefully most of you may have seen in different languages. More points you got, it's more perks, just like a computer game. And just to give you a kind of a medical background of how this Kayakalpa works, we can explain it by different ways. As I said, till now I'm using the Siddhars, Nadis, etc. to explain that. Now medically also, if you see the cranial nerves are all from medulla predominantly, and most of the cranial nerves supply the organs in the face, while the vagus cranial nerve is the longest nerve. It supplies everything from heart to lungs to stomach to liver to spleen and up to the intestines and up to the rectum also. So that is one of the longest vagus nerve. And when you have such a large vagus nerve, no wonder that could be one of the nerve where it takes the Kayakalpa force in an indirect manner and takes it to medulla. And we always discuss that medulla is the region where we are thinking about this Agna Chakra, etc. So indirectly medulla, pineal gland, pituitary, they're all almost in the same plane. So if you focus in that plane, you will be focusing the same thing in one behind the other. So pituitary, then medulla, then pineal gland. And the other thing is the modern science have now clearly proven that abdomen is like a second brain. If you are having a good sattvic food, if your biome in your tummy is of correct biome, like eating proper yogurt, etc., that creates a good environment that gives a kind of a feedback from the tips of the vagus nerve back into the brain, and it prevents everything from dementia to Alzheimer's disease, everything. Similarly, so vagus nerve is both afferent and efferent. Similarly, when you are doing proper Kayakalpa, the vagus nerve could be one of the main conductor of the increased vital force, life energy, etc. to the higher places. This is just my contemplation, my understanding being a medical background, and it makes a lot of good sense to me. And the other thing is, when you are doing this Ashwini Mudra, the actual muscles which you are contracting, the pelvic floor muscles, are supplied by this S2, S3, S4, which are all the sacral nerves from the back. I'll show more pictures to explain this. So how it works is, initially you are thinking about this, the spinal cord gets the information that that particular muscles needs to be contracted, and then In the spinal cord, this S2, S3, S4 section nerves go in the form of pudendal nerve and contract the muscles. This is the afferent pathway. Afferent means from up to down, I will say. So there is a efferent pathway where when you do the muscle contraction, this S2, S3, S4 will get strengthened. S2, S3, S4 are very important for appropriate bladder functioning, appropriate prostate functioning, etc. As I said, there is so much of people now in 30s and 40s getting into these problems. And this picture clearly shows the pudendal nerve coming from S2, S3, S4, here it's S2, S3, S4 directly to the external sphincter and pelvic floor muscles. And the actual muscle what we are contracting is this pelvic floor muscle, which circulates or circumvents both the rectum and also the prostatic urethra. And because of that, the floor will become quite strong, good for men and very, very good for women in preventing any prolapse. So the Ashwini Mudra actually creates a good strong pelvic floor, while the Ojas breath has to be done softly by women so that it's not giving too much of pressure on the pelvic floor, creating prolapse. And this picture also clearly shows us the intestines and where the pelvic floor muscles were present. And this shows the amount of divisions present in the pelvic floor nerves. Normally when we do surgery, we can't see many of these nerves because they are all so small. We can see only the named big nerves. Since they are so small, that's why possibly the Siddhas may have labeled it as nadis, and we started explaining as there are nadis, and nadis are not seen in our eyes. There are 108 nadis, they belong to only subtle body. Even the nerves are also similar to that, but we can't identify all the nerves in general. We can identify nerves only like a fascio I will say lipid group. Once we remove a kind of a fascia, we can take that nerves along with that. We can't dissect and skeletonize the nerve. By doing skeletonizing the nerve will get damaged automatically. So much of relation between these nerves and the nadis what Siddhas have said. You all know about this Sushumna, Ida, Pingala, nadis. I'm not going to discuss much about the nadis today. Chakras we have seen. And so this is where our pituitary, midbrain and pineal gland, they're all coming in the same line, and which is corresponding to the Agna Chakra. And as I said, I've taken some slides from MVR Ayya so that we can discuss this life force exactly in the same way what Ayya has maintained. I don't want to deviate anything from his beautiful explanations. So we know about the spinning system. We are quite confident on the genetic center, life force, Panchabhuta, Saptatadus and Panchakoshas. And I really like using this animation, and thank you for Vijayalakshmi Amma helping in these slides. These are the things what I have discussed with MVR Ayya both in the WhatsApp and also in the direct phone call for this class. So the spinning system of the life force and genetic center, the strength is directly proportional and one strengthens the another. Okay, so the Kayakalpa, life force, biomagnetism, genetic center, they are all like one inside another or one overlapping on another. The spinning system of the genetic center and life force has a common central point. We have discussed this with pictures. I'm going to show them. The field of the spinning system of genetic center has 4 zones: beta, alpha, theta and delta, consisting from 0 to 40 cycles. An impact of this genetic center on the life force, velocity, spinning and wavelength. So the sexual vital fluid is the 7th dhatu. We know that. MVRI has explained very well. So it's the ultimate product of food which is closely linked to the absolute space. And so this absolute space, magnetism, ojas, they're all like linked to each other. Absolute space yield the energy particle back to us, and this energy is taken from the self-compressive pressure, and we are doing Kayakalpa and making this magnetism again nicely strengthened and making us into a unified field. Magnetism associated with the absolute space and energy particles, that is Akash, becomes SVF, and it's a reversible process, and by using SVF, by using Kayakalpa, we can produce these Akashic particles in our body, which is our vitality, which is our biomagnetism. SPF in the genetic center is responsible, and it is the attractive force for the genetic center. So obviously, for the genetic centers to hold the energy particles, Kayakalpa has become like a major tool or exercise. Rather than just understanding it, it is a good exercise to perform. So the power of life force depends upon the amount of energy particles. The amount of energy particles depends upon the Kayakalpa what you are doing. Any mass is said to live only when there is a force in that. Otherwise, it's not a lively one. Death, coma, sickness, acute chronic illnesses, everything is due to this lack of vitality. Whether we are taking it in the disease form or whether we are taking it as superhuman form like health, super health, supra health, yogis. So whether you are getting better from the normal life or whether you are getting ruined into a subnormal life with disease entirely depends upon amount of vitality or the sexual vital fluids strength. And we can see that this is directly depends upon not just the quantity and also the quality, which can be repaired only by Kayakalpa. Otherwise it will be only of like I will say discussions, what were metaphysical discussions. The metaphysical discussions of sexual vital fluid becomes an absolute practical thing only by using the Kayakalpa. And it not only gives a single healthy human being, it also gives a very good performing strong humanity and social. MVRI has clearly explained this divine dust particles and how the self-compressive force forms the life force particle and how the life force particle circulates also. And when these kind of surrounding pressure causing the divine dust particle, you can even correlate it that by doing Kayakalpa, you're doing almost the same thing of creating a self-compressing pressure, even though it's not entirely the same one happening in universe and another happening in the body. But Siddha said, Andathil irupathaan pindathilum irukkirathu. Clear? And this diagram I can see day in and day out. So nicely MVRaya and Vijayalakshmi madam has clearly explained how this divine dust particle escapes if we are not having a good strong life force particle and if it's weak. But when it's intense, you can see that more layers are in inside region like delta and theta, and because of the less vibrations it's more stronger also. So it clearly explains how life force particle will be in common man or in a yogi. The outer bands will be having high spin, low density and loss, while inner bands will be having low spin, high density, and there is low interparticle distance. When there is low interparticle distance, when it creates a kind of a self-compressed one, that is prevention of entropy, and that is the Markandeyan type of strength, vitality, etc. A good strong block of iron is always considered like has got more power compared to same weight wool or cotton flakes, I will say. So it's the easiest way is to create that vitality, create that compressiveness, create that compactness. And this is another picture which so clearly explains that how this life force particles rotates in a 3D view, from the top view, from the side. It just not in one direction. It's both in and out and also up and down and also around also. And this is one of the rare picture of Maharishi himself doing Kayakalpa and explaining the every stage. And so Kayam is Udambu, which means body. Karpam means Urudhipaduthudal, which means strengthening it, making it more vital. And this is the direct and the only method of making life force particles strong one. And all other methods, like for example the next one is like Nadi Sutti and exposure to sun, fasting, etc. And the lowest one is just having the normal food and having normal, punctual, so-called good human beings. Let's don't discuss anything lower than that. Valga Valamudan. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Gaya. The life force animation has been given by Padma Madam.
Okay.
Just wanted to. Oh, thanks a lot. Dr. Miraya, can you please proceed with questions? And questions. Thank you.